Mao's Top 10 Moments, selected and presented by WilliamAMao. Mao died in Beijing on September 9th of 1976. Once he died, he could no longer be the chairman of China. Things wouldn't be the same after Mao couldn't mold Chinese society to his beliefs. Right after he died, there was a period of chaos in which the Gang of Four rallied for power. The Gang of Four were four rogue communists that included Mao's widow. They were charged with crimes against the government and were thrown into jail. Mao Zedong was born in Shaoxian, China on December 26, 1893. It wasn't just the fact of his birth, it was the time and place that he was born that set him up to do the things he would later do in his lifetime. Mao's father was a successful grain farmer, so he grew up in a middle-class family and was able to pursue his education. Mao took his wife and two sons and left the city of Changsha in 1924. He left his job as a school principal and moved to Shanghai as the Kuomintang executive. The Kuomintang was a nationalist party run by Sun Yat-sen. This was at the time of the Japanese invasion, so the communists and the nationalists had to join forces. Once Mao was the executive, he could prove his leadership and build up his power. Mao led the Long March of 1934 when the Red Army was forced to flee from the nationalist forces. Chiang Kai-shek led the Kuomintang because Sun Yat-sen had died unexpectedly. The Red Army fled to the mountainous northwest corner of China where they would stay for over a decade. This was a remarkable thing, as Mao fled 6,000 miles and still kept some of his army alive. After the Long March, Mao was the undisputed leader of the Communist Party. Mao built the Red Army in October of 1927. He gathered peasants and other working-class people and formed it. Since peasants were good workers in many a number, he thought that they would make for a good army. Then, he led his army into the mountains to form the military tactics that would later be used to defeat the nationalists. He came up with a strategy to circle the countryside and gain support before attacking the inner city. He switched China from capitalist to communist in a very short time period and completely remade the country. The transition was very hard for China. Even though it was a struggle, he led the country through it. Mao Zedong left a legacy, for better or for worse. Mao launched the Great Leap Forward in 1958. His goal was to modernize China to catch up to the West technologically. He tried to put people to work in the steel industry in order for China to catch up. Everyone had to donate scraps of metal to use for steel. The farmers were collected into communes where they lived together, shared food, and divided labor. Since the steel industry yielded low-quality product, much money and labor forces were lost, resulting in a 2-year-long famine. Millions of people were killed and tortured during the Cultural Revolution. The outcome of the Cultural Revolution is almost as huge as its launch because so many people were forced to suffer. People were shot publicly or tortured in various ways because of their parents' jobs and background. When the next generation of children and teenagers witnessed this violence, they were desensitized and compelled to participate. When Mao launched the Cultural Revolution in 1966, his goal was to reform China both economically and culturally. His wife, Jiang Qing, gathered dance troupes from different schools to dance publicly in support of Chairman Mao. The four olds, or old customs, old culture, old habits, and old ideas, were destroyed. Signs that implied capitalism were destroyed. Da Zi Bao were used to chastise people for their class status, or how they dressed or treated people. Education drastically changed, and teachers who weren't in favor of communism were killed or tortured. On October 1st, 1949, from the balcony of the Tiananmen Square, Mao declared the People's Republic of China and became the chairman of the new China. By creating this new China, Mao completely changed the course of history. This marked the communists' victory over the nationalists, who moved to Taiwan and set up their own government.